Well, the Mariners are still one win away from the World Series. And oh boy, tomorrow we're going to have a game seven.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever they're calling it these days. And on Instagram, I am your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. But the best way to get a hold of me is right here on the YouTube channel. And make sure to use that hashtag EverydaySully. It helps us find those comments. And I'm going to be reading some comments in the final segment of today's show. And let's get right to the trivia question. I got a lot of positive responses from the show that I did at game 4 of the NLCS, where Shohei Ohtani said, hold my beer. It's funny. I said during the show, I said that I would have given the MVP to the League Championship Series to Yamamoto based on his complete game victory in Game 2, and that really was what torpedoed the any hopes for the Brewers, in my humble opinion. And I would have given that instead of Shohei Ohtani. Well, with a day of reflection, Ohtani did bat .357 with an on-base percentage of .500, an OPS of 1.643 with 3 home runs in 4 games, and got a victory where he allowed no runs over 6 innings plus, where he struck out 10. So I guess with a little bit of reflection. That's how you know I recorded that at the time, because with his amazing Game 4, it's like, I you know what, I understand the pick. At the game, I invented a trivia question right then and there, and that was, what Dodger pitcher clinched more than one National League Championship Series? Dodgers have won a bunch of NLCSs from the mid-'70s till this weekend. So how many pitchers have clinched more than one NLCS over the years? Mark Fahey, 2520, said, is Kenley Jansen too obvious? Yes, it would be too obvious, and it would be incorrect. I got a couple. One person said Don Sutton. Another person put in for Tommy John, but it was Gavin D. Luhash. I'm sorry, I'm butchering that. 2994, who got it right. The Dodgers have won 10 pennants since the NLCS came into existence, and 10 different pitchers were on the mound when they clinched. Actually, that's not 100% right, because they've won 10 pennants. One of them was a walk-off in 1978. But the answer is none. They've always had a different pitcher, whether it was Mike Marshall in 74, Tommy John in 77. You had Bob Welch in 81. You had Hershiser in 88. You had Kenley Jansen. You had Julio Urias. Clayton Kershaw came out of the bullpen to pitch the final inning against Milwaukee. You had Blake Trinan last year and Sasaki this year. It's always been someone different. I made a note of that when I was at the game. So there you go. So today was a chance for the Seattle Mariners to do something that they had never done before in their history, and that is clinch a World Series title. They had that chance on Sunday, and guess what? They have another chance to do it on Monday. We have baseball tomorrow. Absolutely, we have baseball tomorrow because, well, for 2 reasons. 3 reasons, really. Trey Yasevich, who wasn't as dominant as he was in that amazing game against the Yankees, but in a way, it was almost more admirable, because he was taken out with 5 1/3 or 5 2/3 no-hit innings in the game against the Yankees. We pitched 5 2/3 today, and he did something that I think needs to be valued. He toughed through it. I don't know if that's correct grammar, but he he persevered. That's better. He pushed. He didn't have his best stuff. He wiggled out of trouble. He got some hard hits off of him and got a couple of huge double plays. But guess what? He pitched into the 6th inning. And yes, they used Varlin and Hoffman for 3 1/3 innings. And who knows if that will come back to haunt them, but you have to manage differently when you're facing elimination. And Yasevich gave them some length. You could have taken them out after 4 because you said, well, second time through the order, look at the velocity off the bat. No, we're going to need a little more. We need some more outs out of you. And so while he looked like a Cy Young Award winner in that game against New York, today he looked like a veteran pitcher who got the team in a position to win even when he didn't have his best stuff. Yes, he got great help from the defense, but you know what? That's part of the game too. And he did strike out 7 batters in 5 2/3 innings. He was terrific. He was terrific, and he got the outs when he needed. Yes, they allowed 9 base runners in 5 2/3 innings, but he wiggled out of jams. And that should be something that is taught to pitchers. That should be something that should be taught to young pitchers. How do you win when you're not blowing them away? How do you squeeze an extra couple outs here and there so you're not running your damn bullpen into the ground? And they got a lot of help. I mean, Barger got a big home run early. Clement got on base 3 times, and he's back to being who he was. You know, Vladi Guerrero Jr. got on base 3 times, hit a home run. He scored a couple runs because one of the runs he scored was he got hit by a pitch and basically manufactured a run with his legs and took advantage of a throwing error by Cal Raleigh, which is what you have to do. You have to put the other team on their heels. And Vladi Jr. is just turning this into his own personal coming out party is what he's really doing. And he's been phenomenal in the series as he hit his 6th playoff home run in today's game. But there's another side to the story, and one that we shouldn't ignore. Yes, give the credit. The Blue Jays, in front of 44,000 of their fans at the Rogers Center, did what they had to do. They put the Mariners on their heels and got the runs when they needed. But another thing happened, and this might be a little disturbing if you're a Seattle fan. The Mariners lost this game as really that was as much of the story as the Blue Jays winning it. Let's hear from our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 to get $300 back in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, boom, you've unlocked $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Now, no matter how you do your bets, whether you build parlays, you do the player props, or if you follow the live lines during the game, FanDuel has you covered. It makes watching football even more exciting. We've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan like I am or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Okay, let's hear from our friends over at Monarch Money. Let's face it. Some of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, and investments, easy to lose track. And that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. It's helped me organize my account, track my spending, and get a better handle on my investments without ever having to touch a spreadsheet. And I love that you can review everything, see shared goals, and make better financial decisions with my partner. Now, Monarch, they have visual dashboards and smart tools that make it so much easier to understand where your money is going and how to make it work harder for me. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the crack. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. That's monarch.com. You know, to kind of borderline paraphrase the movie Airplane. They picked the wrong game to where Lord Bridges was like, look, picked the wrong week to quit smoking, quit the wrong week to quit drinking, quit the wrong week to quit amphetamines. I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue. Well, the Mariners, excuse me as I scratch my nose, the Mariners picked the wrong week to have one of their worst defensive games of the year. Rodriguez bobbled a ball in center field. Suarez made a fielding error and a grounder, and Raleigh threw a throw into right field that led to a run. And there was a wild pitch by Brash, a hit by pitch by Brash, and those led directly to 3 runs. There was there was one unearned run in the game, but those errors set up 3 runs. And what was the final score? 6-2. Without those errors, let's say one of them would have come around. It would have been let's say it'd be 4-2. Either way, the errors made by Seattle in this potential clinching game, the team looked tight, and they were held scoreless for all but 1 inning. Now, they got Naylor hit a home run, and Naylor's been terrific. And then they got one more run. Suarez drove in a run, and he had the big game the other day, but he was lousy on the field. He did make a great play on a Vladi Guerrero line drive to end a rally, but this team looked tight. Raleigh is one of the best defense, if not the best defensive catcher in all of baseball, throwing the ball into left field. We just saw a Brewers team that had the best record in baseball play super tight against Los Angeles, and that basically cost them the NLCS. I will stand on top of Mount Sinai and say that if they had followed through and got that hit by pitch in the bottom of the 9th, or just got a little flare hit off of Blake Trinan and won Game 1, that entire series would have been different. But they acted super tight the rest of the way. They scored 4 runs total in 4 games. And they got decent pitching in some of the games. Really, Game 2 was the only game they didn't have really good pitching. Mizorowski gave him a great, not start, opener situation in Game 3. But the Brewers played tight against LA, and boy, oh boy, this Mariners team looked like the Brewers today. They were tight at the plate. Now, yes, they hit in some double plays, and the great defense squandered, a couple of those times where they had double played with the bases loaded, a flare here, a flare there. But you know what? There was something right from the point when the Toronto scored in the second, and then when they made it 4-0, I could see there was something weird going on this Mariner team. Now, of course, if one of those players hit a home run, who are the two that ground into the double play? Crawford into ground into double play. Raleigh and Rodriguez. Okay, if Raleigh hit one in the gap when he had the bases loaded, or Rodriguez, okay, this may have been a very different game. And of course, these narratives are written in retrospect. But boy, they look tight, and that does not fare well for tomorrow. That does not fare well, as the team is going to be in an absolutely raucous crowd in Toronto, who is absolutely starving for a trip to the World Series, as are the Mariners. Kirby is going to be pitching for the Mariners. Bieber is going to be pitching for Toronto. You and I have no idea what that matchup's going to be. None. Zero. No clue. Kirby, this postseason has not been very good. I mean, I'm sorry, but he hasn't been. And, anytime you look up in 3 postseason games, he has an ERA that starts with 7. Not that ERAs are the end all and be all, but it's not good. That is not good. Meanwhile, you have Bieber, who pitched well his last game, but you don't know what you're going to get out of him. He could get pounded. Now, the good thing for Seattle going into this game is you're also going to have Luis Castillo. Castillo is going to be in there, and they didn't use Spire. Spire didn't pitch. Wu didn't pitch. Andres Munoz did not pitch. And so each one of them are, have at least 2 days of rest. And Toronto is going to have, I'm guessing they're going to have everyone not named Trey Yosevich pitching. Bassett could pitch, Gausman, I'm sure, could give a couple innings. Scherzer can go a couple innings. I personally would start Scherzer and then have Bieber and then have everyone else ready. I would just say everyone get all these people lined up. If I were Toronto, I would basically say Bieber, Scherzer, Gausman. You be prepared to throw 3 innings and then roll the dice with the rest of them. And the same thing with Seattle. You look up and you say, okay, Kirby, give us everything you got. But Castillo, treat this like a start. Be ready to throw 3 or 4 innings. Wu, be ready to throw 3 or 4 innings. And Munoz, be prepared to throw 3 innings. Everyone's got to be able to go, and you take the pitch count, you put it in the toilet, you start to flush, because this is Game 7. And for Seattle, it's a chance to do something that has never happened in their history. And for Toronto, it's something that they haven't done since before the advent of the wild card. And look, the Dodgers are sitting back with their arms folded and thinking, oh, this is great. But it's not the same situation. Even if this turns out to be the same thing as like what happened in that final game between Detroit and Seattle, where it goes, 15 innings? In Game 7, there's not going to be a game on Tuesday. It's not going to be a game on Wednesday. And there's not going to be a game on Thursday. So wait, which way did they do it that wouldn't get me killed in Inglourious Bastards? Is it this way? This way got him killed in Inglourious Bastards. So this way would get me not killed in Inglourious Bastards. That will get me killed in Inglourious Bastards. Hopefully you got that film reference. But everyone's got to go. Ready to go. Big time. It would be great if you have that fabulous pitching like you had between Smoltz and Jack Morris at the end of the 1991 World Series. But this could be a situation when you have starting pitchers coming out, kind of like what happened in that final game between the Mariners and the Yankees in 1995, where Jack McDowell and Randy Johnson both had to come out of the bullpen. That happens. Pedro Martinez came out of the bullpen to help clinch the 1999 Division Series. Mike Mussina came out of the bullpen, as did David Wells in the Aaron Boone game, a game of which Mariano Rivera threw 3 innings. And poor Tim Wakefield, who would have been the series MVP had the Red Sox clinched, instead is remembered for letting up the Boone homer. No one blamed him for that. Everyone blamed Grady Little, and eventually Wakefield had his redemption the next year. But I digress. We've seen situations where starting pitchers have come out, a la Madison Bumgarner, coming out of the bullpen and doing the great job out of the Penarinho. We saw the Red Sox do that like crazy in 2018, bringing starters out and left and right, and Sale coming out of the pen, Price and Eovaldi. It's all got to thrown out the window, and that's one of the reasons why there's nothing like a Game 7. And 2 franchises, 2 fan bases just foaming at the mouth. And tomorrow, one of them is going to have such a moment of exultation, and the other is just going to be staring into the sky going, we were so close. And what I want, because I don't have, obviously I have a strong sense of kinship with the state of Washington. I got my Go Cougs. And I've always wanted to see the Mariners in the World Series, but I can't hate this Blue Jay team. What I want is a great game, a memorable game. And I want it to be the blank game. The way that the game I went to at Dodger Stadium this weekend was the Shohei Ohtani game. I want to be there. I want to be able to watch this game and say, wow, that was the game that insert star here put the team on his back and clinched a pennant. Last Friday, I went to the National League Championship Series, and let me tell you something. There's nothing like seeing a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd was just so incredible. But the process of getting the tickets, you know what? That's the tough part. You got lines, you got login screens, you got surprise fees. Sometimes it takes the fun out of it, but that's why I use Gametime. It's the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. It couldn't be more simple. I could see the exact view from my seat before buying it, and all the fees are included. You know the total up front. No surprise fees at checkout. You got the zone deals. I like my section at Dodger Stadium, which is different than the section I like to sit in San Francisco. I pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and boom, you save big. Honestly, it's faster, it's cheaper, and it's less stressful than any other way I've ever bought tickets. So go to get the Gametime app, easy for you to say, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Let's look at some comments that people have written. By the way, I think it's really funny because I did the show at Dodger Stadium, and I've praised the Dodgers for winning the National League pennant, and I certainly don't feel like I gave any hate to the Milwaukee Brewers along the way. But from the same video, I can get from Andrew AJT says Sully can no longer hide his love for the Dodgers, while Brandon Christopher can say, "You really sound like a hater. Go Dodgers." So that's right, folks. I both love the Dodgers and hate the Dodgers. I'm like Schrodinger's cat. I'm both of them. So there you go. Just so you know, you only see what you want to see. I got a little flack from some people for forgetting the name of the Brewers Stadium, which was christened Miller Park. And it's American Family Park now. Miller Park was so great; it rolled off the tongue. And as I said, you had Coors Field, you had Busch Stadium, and you had Miller Park. You had 3 beer companies, each with their own stadium. I thought that was terrific. And it's named some insurance company, and some people got on me questioning whether or not I really like baseball based on whether I don't know the name of a new naming rights. Rusty Reed said, talk about horrid name changes. Skydome to Rogers Center is certainly barf worthy. The only time I've been to Toronto, I went with my dad in 1995. We went to Skydome. We stayed in the Skydome Hotel, overlooked that had a room overlooked the stadium, and some of the Paul Molitor was still there, Joe Carter, Robbie Alomar, Devon White. They still had a lot of the players from the World Series team when we went there. Of all the name changes, that one doesn't bother me as much, because they spelled center Centre. It's a pretty Canadian there. I liked Skydome. I think Skydome was a great name, but I think T-Mobile Park for Safeco Field, that's the one that just sort of puts a bad taste in my mouth. I thought Pac Bell Park was a great name in San Francisco, and now the greatest ballpark in baseball is now called Oracle Park. And I associate Oracle with where the Warriors played. So it's just, I don't know. There are worse ones than Rogers Center. I honestly, truthfully don't know what the White Sox Stadium is called now. I always liked it being New Comiskey Park, but then it became, U.S. Cellular Field, which I don't know, for some, maybe because they won the World Series with a name that it did, that kind of I associated with it. Then it became Guaranteed Rate Field. Now I think it's just Rate Field, which sounds like Renfield, who ate bugs for Dracula. Not where I want to be right now. I liked it when it was the park in Miami called Marlins Park, and now it's called Lone Depot. I don't know. Is it a stadium or a park? How can you tell the difference? Those are the ones that are just like, okay, that will be changed in 3, 2, 1. In fact, I'm going to try to talk to the good folks at Locked On MLB to see if maybe we could buy the rights to the Marlins Stadium, have that become Locked On MLB Field. But there you go. And keep in mind, I both love and hate the Dodgers. I talked about my hatred of the universal DH. I liked the DH, and I liked pitchers hitting. I liked that there were two leagues that were different, and so when there was interleague play, there really was a difference between the two. Scott Campbell, aka, and my piece is universal DH is fine. You're wrong. I'd rather have DH in both league or no DH at all. No, I like the difference. I don't understand that mentality. With pitchers going max effort every pitch, I'd like them to avoid injuries as much as possible. Yeah, how's that working out? Really, how's that working out? The avoiding injuries. We all know Tarek Skubal and Mizorowski and Skeens are like every time they throw a pitch, instead of being thrilled, we're all gasping like it's Evil Knievel trying to jump over the Grand Canyon. How's the whole we're avoiding injuries with the pitchers working out for us? How's that the whole we only drafting and interested in pitchers throwing 1 billion miles an hour and having them face the order twice? How's that working out? It's not working out. We don't have innings eaters anymore. And our top pitchers were terrified that they throw pitches. So we have to prevent them from pitching. Because we only say he throw fast. Then it's the knuckle dragging brigade again. He throw fast. Fast is good. Me draft fast pitcher. The same thing gave us universal DH. Me no see runs. Runs better. DH good. And remember, if the universal DH was set up before Ohtani signed, we would not have had the game that we had the other day. We might have the 6 shutout innings. We might have the 3 home runs. But they say, well, we can't have that. No. Please, 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 please. Let's try to avoid that, shall we? That would be too good for baseball. Universal DH stinks. And by the way, I get there's a lot of people when I did my apology to Blue Jay fans, and also coming up over the last couple of days, we've had a bunch of really pleasant Canadian fans writing to me. And my favorite one is this one, Tread Bomb. I hate that we Jays fans always come across as insecure and in need of Americans to recognize us as a good squad. Who gives a damn if they're ignorant to the makeup of our squad? That's the spirit. Don't look for our validation. And you know what? If you win tomorrow, if your Blue Jays win tomorrow, then you'll have a whole bunch of Americans going like, maybe we were wrong for not picking them. And by the way, someone who 2 weeks ago, I put in the little thing this was 2 weeks ago, brother John Wayne Causey said 2 weeks ago, predict the Toronto Blue Jays will take the World Series title, the first one since 1993. Well, John Wayne Causey, brother, your prediction doesn't look so bad today, but we will see, because the Mariners could indeed win, because it's a Game 7. And by definitions, all Game 7s are coin tosses. We've seen players that you expected to dominate a Game 7 fold. We've seen people surprise players come up big. And what I'm hoping for tomorrow, like the other time we had a do or die game involving Seattle this year, that was an all-time classic. Let's have another one. And that's going to lead us to today's trivia question. This is going to be the second Game 7 in the history of the Toronto Blue Jays. Trivia question. Who started the first Game 7 in Toronto Blue Jays history? Put your answers down below. And thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen. For your second listen, you want to keep it right here for the all new Locked On MLB Game Night, every game, every night, until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Talking about the Toronto Blue Jays showing us how to win, the Seattle Mariners showing us how to lose, and one of them will win and one of them will lose tomorrow, and it will be quite a night to see who will face the Dodgers in the World Series. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please, please, please call me Sully.